Okay, monkeys. A couple of thoughts. I just watched Sam Harris's and Jordan Peterson's debate, the one at Pangburn Philosophy. I think I got it right. Who cares? Um, I have like two things I want to say. Nothing much really, because the debate has been pretty long. I feel like a lot of the things have been addressed elsewhere. I just want to touch on two things which usually kind of the two things I usually kind of notice very clearly. One, I feel like I feel like Sam Harris needs to speak to a Christian on his understanding of the Bible because it's flawed, right? Every time he mentions the thing about slavery, I get confused because I'm not. I've said this in other videos. I was a Christian. I'm now more agnostic, but I was like very into it. And anytime he says things about, like, for example, slavery or wars or whatever, and he attributes that to God and then Christians, it gets me off. Like it sorry, it just it's so weird. It's like, where are you getting this from? Um, and it's because of something I've said before. Uh, Simply that the Bible is a narrative. It tells a story, and in places it will tell a story where God dictates rules and such. Now, you can have a problem, I personally do, with the way God interacts with people, right? His interactions with people, the way he chooses to interfere, right? Because there's an idea where he does not interfere so that he can optimize the freedom of a human being. But then there is the idea where he chooses a certain type of people, right, to convey his will. And this is in the Christian doctrine. This is not like in general terms. This is in the Christian doctrine, where he chooses a type of people. He makes them somewhat representatives, ambassadors of his word to the world. And so for them, the relationship is it's much more bound, right? And because it's much more bound, there are rules which come in and regulations on all these things. But in general, the idea is still there, the idea of kind of freedom. And so a lot of the laws which come in will deal with how they interact with each other as a community that belongs to God, and then how they interact with God, for example. Now, you can say, or okay, fine, like Sam Harris was saying, like slavery, for example, should have been in the Ten Commandments, for example. And it's very hard to answer that. Like, I'm not gonna state that I know why it wasn't. But a lot of the things that used to go on there, like some of them will be something of like a term of non-interference, and you can kind of have a problem with the relationship that he has, but that how he chooses to interfere and how he chooses not to interfere. But him, for example, not refusing slavery, because again, I'll show you another thing. There's a law of thou shalt not kill, but in wars he will, for example, he endorses people, endorse the people he wants to endorse at that particular point in time. Because if you read the Bible, Israelites didn't win everything. Sometimes they had to like lose so that a point gets through or something of the sort. And so you see a law which is thou shalt not kill, and then you see places where there's outright murder, but like with within like parameters of like what is. So the interference is the problem, but in a large scale there was a kind of allowance of whatever culture that was going on to kind of go on. Same thing as what's happening now, because even now there's so many things which are happening which are off, but that's based on our invention as people, right? It's us who have come, who have taken an understanding of our environment, and then like manipulated our society so that some behaviors are acceptable, right? It's from the people, right? And God, in a lot of places in the Bible, kind of steps around it, right? The places he will interfere, the places he won't. And I feel that's where you're going to have an issue, but not that issue directly relates to him allowing, promoting slavery. I felt that was weird. I felt that was weird. I felt like he didn't speak to any. He doesn't understand how the Bible is narrated. I feel because he takes it like a book. A lot of the laws that were set in the Old Testament, a lot of the laws, a lot of the ways they used to follow, and things like those, their beliefs and such, the New Testament removes a lot of them. And if you've read the Bible and you've talked to a Christian, you kind of understand this. this is public domain knowledge. The laws of back then, the laws, let's say, set by Moses, okay, because that's when they were mostly set. In the New Testament, the paradigm shifts. The what they call the covenant. The covenant becomes between a man and God directly, right, without any laws. And the idea is like when you commit to God, then the law is written in your hearts and such things. I feel like he misses that too. So that's another thing, right? So if I'm a Christian, I'm not, for example, gonna assume that slavery is correct. Like, and this is not even because of culture. Like, the thing about the Bible and the thing about religion, and this is why, like, for example, right now I don't, for example, say that I'm Christian, but Christian values to me are still very important because a lot of them make a lot of sense. Ideas like love, like the Bible very much like clearly explains how free you are to love. Like ideas that love your enemy. It's something as dumb as that, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Some of these things, if you actually decide to follow them, they are profound, right? Because this is like, let the man who murdered your children, love the man who murdered your children, all those things. Like, the ideas behind Christianity are profound. And even now, I usually still kind of follow them greatly because it makes sense. And I feel like every time I see Sam Harris and he's speaking, it's like, woof, nothing. I get this concern. And I think like the place where you can kind of zone into is how God chooses to interfere with people. Back in the day, because there was a lot of freedom in how their cultures were shaped, but then there were specific ways in how he dictated his people to move in accordance to his will. And that's the funny thing. It's not all of it is not based on what he thought was good, or that is there, but a lot of it is his will. It's like a governance. And I'll give another example. Let me stop my notifications for like 2 seconds. They're really coming hard. The entrance of Jesus as the savior of mankind, that begins in the Old Testament, right? This is pebbles laid down constantly, scattered everywhere, until there's this manifestation. And this is like even two different people from different backgrounds being brought together because their bloodlines are required for Jesus. So it's his will, and this is something I usually fight about. So the point where you can probably get me at is where, for example, the assumption that his will is good, and I would say his will needs to be good enough for him and not for you. And that brings me to the second point. Sam Harris, I feel, even though like when you're arguing ethical points, it does make sense to kind of argue from the point of people, because a lot of these things are usually social contracts, right? And then we're trying to kind of find out like how internalized these social contracts are within ourselves. That's fair, right? But when you start like asking your metaphysical questions and blah blah blah, and the question of God and his relationship to people is metaphysical, right? And I think the books of religion will explain it that way, okay? You're not the center, and that's something even with religion, like people will find a problem with. Like if you're an actual Christian, you will find a problem with. The argument is usually very much, and it's weird. Okay, for Jordan Peterson, I would feel why he would argue that, and that's why for him he kind of gets a pass, right? He's religious. Religion usually assumes man is at the center of everything. Okay. I don't think that's the case. I don't think there's anything that points to that. In fact, like anything that points toward man being the center of all creation and anything pointing towards a benevolent God, I don't see it. I see what I usually see is a designer with a form of a design, right? And I usually see the entire like all creation as one, like creation, like one thing has been made, and you're a really intelligent cell within a body, right? That's it. You are a very intelligent cog in the machine. That's it. That's all you get. That's all you are. And I feel like for Sam Harris now that should be apparent, right? Because for him he's left like alone religion. But I feel like, again, and this is something I've said before, he's found another form of religion, because that's why he's again at the center, and his arguments usually kind of circle around man again being at the center and having some sort of value I don't see, you know. And that's why like a lot of his arguments against religion will be because of human suffering. Because that's the thing about these things, like truths, like the fact that you suffer does not validate an objective truth, you know. If you suffer a rock, like a rock is still a rock, you know. I don't even making sense. So like the nature of a divine being won't change because you suffer or not. I mean, all you can say now is that his nature was always this. And the thing about, like I've mentioned this again before, the relationship between the creator and the creation is very special because his good supersedes your good. And you need to be able to kind of conceptualize the fact that your good is tiny. The same way when you're making something, sometimes you have to kind of break it down to break it back up. That thing does have value, right? But your good supersedes its good, so it's good in kind of being bashed down and such. So I usually feel like he puts us at the center, and when we are not at the center, it is a direct pointer to, it's direct evidence to no God or to evil within religion. And all those ones I usually feel are like, I don't know, he's not making that much sense, honestly speaking. So, two things. I would say a third thing about Jordan Peterson, he's not a conventional Christian. I think at first he had said he was, and now he's kind of coming, because Jordan always will speak at that to a point where he's kind of trying to figure it himself, and that confuses people. Sam Harris acts as an authority, but Jordan Peterson acts as a conversator, if that makes any sense. It's like he's talking to you and he's trying to figure it out himself. So it's more of a conversation, and he's not speaking as an authority figure. And God damn it, unless you directly like piss off something he says. So like if you say something where he's an authority and he knows it's wrong and you're really kind of going strong on it, he switches to an authority, then switches back to a place where he's kind of trying to figure it out with you, even if it's a discussion he's had before. So I would say, I think even in this debate, I feel like he was very adamant about the fact that he was expressing his opinions. I mean the first video, because I've seen, I think, 2 videos, if I am not wrong. I want to go see the second one today, and then probably I'll have more to share on that. But right now, those are the only thoughts I have mostly. Honestly speaking, like there's a point where so many things were superfluous, but it was because I was working on other things. But I think I got the gist of most of it. But I actually really want to watch the second one, then rewatch both of them and just kind of get like what's going on there. But Sam Harris, man, I feel like he's I strongly affirm the fact that he's intelligent. I think that a lot of the beliefs he has, I share. I feel like with like the word religion sparks something up that's very like fiery in his heart. I feel like there's a lot of I feel like he despises the thing, and because he does, he goes really ham on it, and sometimes he just shows biases that are within him, and sometimes you can look at the biases and then judge if the biases are true or not, such as the video that I am making is trying to do. I might be wrong, I might be right, who cares? I care. Tell me, please, if you see this, let me know, just shoot me something. I want to throw a final thought, even though this is now 13 minutes. Jesus Christ. I don't know why people keep fighting about who's better, Jordan or Sam. Both of them are pretty intelligent, just have different views on some things, like the nature of truth and the nature of religion as an ethical, I guess, authority, I think. Because I don't think both of them are pretty much religious, like not in the sense that we all know, not in the layman's term of religion. I think both of them are not there, but I think for both of them, like Jordan sees value in religion and Sam doesn't, and I feel like the community just decided this is gonna be a versus mode, and it's like a Rick and Morty fan base where there are 2 Ricks and people have chosen sides and they've decided the other one is bad. It's the weirdest thing ever. It's the dumbest thing ever, in fact. Don't be an ass to people. Come on.